If you're an airman or you've ever dreamed of flying, these 9 movies are a must-watch. I've got jet duels, rescue missions, and dogfights shot with real fighter planes. And yes, one of these movies was so wild, the actual Air Force wanted nothing to do with it. How many have you actually seen? So this was the movie that made the Air Force really uncomfortable. A technical glitch sends 6 B-58 bombers toward Moscow with their launch codes active. The whole point of the system is there are multiple fail-safes to stop exactly this from happening. But through bad decisions and flawed logic and just things cascading, neither side can stop it. Sidney Lumet directed it in just black and white. It's this documentary-style footage of actual bombers and fighters. It's played completely straight, no jokes or satire like Dr. Strangelove did. The scary part about fail-safe is nobody's evil or stupid. It's just equipment failing and protocols that are too rigid to account for the failure. Once the bombers get their orders from the computers, there's no override. Human mistakes you can catch and fix. Computer mistakes just execute. The tension in this movie is just unbearable. You're watching people try to stop something that's already in motion, and there's nothing they can do. It's unbearable to sit through, and that's the point. This came out in 1964 when people were genuinely afraid that nuclear war could start any day. The Cold War felt endless, and everyone lived with this background terror that one screw-up would end the world. Failsafe showed you exactly how that screw-up could happen. And the movie's more relevant now than it was then. With all the talk about artificial intelligence running automated systems, this idea that machines can't check themselves, that's not a 1964 problem, that's a today problem. Same writer as 12 O'Clock High, Cy Bartlett, but he updated the whole thing for the nuclear age and strategic air command. So there's this B-52 wing that just completely failed an inspection. The commanding officer gets fired, they bring in a new guy who's super career-focused and doesn't mess around, and everyone under him immediately hates it. There's another big inspection coming, and if they fail this one, careers are over. The timing on this movie is important. It came out in 1963, same time as Failsafe and Dr. Strangelove. Those movies made Strategic Air Command look incompetent, like they were going to accidentally start World War III any minute. General Curtis LeMay actually got involved in making a gathering of eagles to push back on that narrative. This movie shows Strategic Air Command working the way it's supposed to. The inspections work, the chain of command works, the nuclear readiness stuff works. It's almost like watching a documentary about B-52 and KC-135 operations. It's propaganda, basically, but it's well-made propaganda. The flying footage looks good, and if you've ever lived through a major inspection, you'll recognize that pressure. This is the one that everybody still watches. There's a B-17 squadron that's cursed. Every mission goes wrong, morale's destroyed, and the commanding officer is a nice guy who just can't turn it around. So they relieve him and bring in Gregory Peck. Peck shows up and he's not interested in being anyone's friend. He's demanding, he holds people to standards they're not used to, and the crews hate him for it at first. They're exhausted, they've been through hell already, and now this guy wants more from them. The movie's not really about the bombing missions. It's about what happens in between, how you lead people who are falling apart, how you turn around a unit that's broken. Peck's character knows he's not going to be popular. He's trying to keep people alive and functional. And the film doesn't pretend there's an easy answer. Being too soft doesn't work. That's why the previous commanding officer got relieved. But being too hard breaks people too. The movie shows both ends of that spectrum and what happens when you get it wrong. 12 O'Clock High has been taught at Air Force and Navy schools for 75 years. It's used at commands all over the Department of Defense to teach leadership. No other movie gets at what leadership actually costs or what it does to the people flying those missions. That's why it's still required viewing. Stanley Kubrick made a comedy about nuclear war in 1964. Not a dark comedy with some laughs, an actual flat-out hilarious movie where a base commander goes insane and orders his bombers to nuke Russia. So now the president has to scramble everyone into the war room to figure out how to stop the apocalypse. Nobody was doing that in 1964. You didn't make comedies about the end of the world. But what makes Dr. Strangelove hold up isn't just that it was ballsy, it's that Kubrick nailed the personalities. The egos at the top, the posturing, the way military and political figures interact when they're all convinced they're the smartest person in the room. The movie's hilarious because it's uncomfortably accurate about how those dynamics actually work. And between all the satire, there are these B-52 crew coordination scenes that show how bomber operations actually function. It's a classic for a reason. Whether you're Air Force or not, you should watch it at least once. The Air Force read the script for Iron Eagle and said absolutely not. They were going to consult on the film until they realized the plot involved a teenager hacking into base computers and stealing F-16 to rescue his dad from the Middle East. The ease with which the kid compromises base security made the Air Force pull support completely. So the filmmakers went to Israel and painted their F-16 to look American. The whole movie got made without U.S. military involvement, which is probably why it's so entertaining. Nobody was there to make it realistic or respectable. It's Lou Gossett Jr. playing a retired pilot helping this kid raise hell overseas, and it's exactly as fun as that sounds. Not accurate, not really teaching you anything except maybe that you can get away with a lot if punishing you would embarrass your superiors. But the flying sequences look incredible because they hired real stunt pilots instead of faking it. There's this scene where the kid races his Cessna against a motorcycle flying low through a canyon. The pilot in that cockpit was Art Scholl. If you know stunt flying, you know that name. Scholl was a legend. That same year, 1986, he was killed filming the flat spin scene for Top Gun. So when you watch Iron Eagle, you're seeing some of the last work from one of the greatest stunt pilots who ever lived. No CGI, just professionals doing the real thing. Clint Eastwood infiltrates the Soviet Union to steal a fighter jet that fires weapons with your thoughts. The Firefox is this mythical MiG-31 that supposedly travels at hypersonic speeds and has thought-controlled weapon systems. When this came out in 1982, that seemed ridiculous. Campy sci-fi stuff. But now thought-controlled weapons aren't science fiction anymore. What looked absurd 40 years ago is basically where military tech is headed. They shot some of this at Thule Air Base in Greenland, standing in for Soviet Arctic bases. Got real aerial footage by having veteran pilot Clay Lacy fly a Learjet with a camera mounted on it. The MiG-31 Firefox never existed. They built a full-scale model, but they put in the work to make the flying look authentic. It's Clint Eastwood doing action, and it holds up better than you'd expect for a movie about stealing a fictional Soviet superjet. There's this Air Force captain in World War II who figures out the perfect way to get out of flying bombing missions. Just get yourself declared insane. Except here's the problem. If you're smart enough to realize that flying these missions will probably get you killed and you want out, well, that proves you're sane. And if you're sane, you have to keep flying. That's Catch-22. The system is designed so that the only way out requires you to be crazy, but asking for a way out proves you're not. The movie came out in 1970, right when America was completely divided over Vietnam. Joseph Heller wrote the book back in 1961, but nobody wanted to touch it for almost a decade because it was too uncomfortable. Then Vietnam happened, and suddenly a story about the absurdity of military bureaucracy didn't seem so crazy anymore. Here's what makes it essential viewing if you're in the Air Force. Every personality type in this movie is someone you've met or will meet. The guy obsessed with his promotion who doesn't care about the actual mission. The general who's completely disconnected from reality. The lieutenant running side hustles. And then there's the protagonist, just trying to survive without losing his mind. It's ridiculous and over the top, but anyone who's dealt with military bureaucracy will recognize the truth in it. Germany's conquered most of Europe, and now they're coming for Britain. The only thing standing between Hitler and a successful invasion is the Royal Air Force, and they're completely outnumbered. Churchill said it best, "Never have so many owed so much to so few." This movie is about those few. What's remarkable about Battle of Britain is they actually flew real World War II aircraft for the combat scenes. Real Spitfires, real Hurricanes, even real Messerschmitts they managed to track down from various countries. The director refused to use models or special effects. He wanted actual planes in the air doing actual maneuvers. They brought in Royal Air Force veterans who'd flown in the real battle to help choreograph the dogfights. The result is, you're watching something that feels genuine because it basically is. These are the actual planes that decided whether Britain survived or fell to Nazi occupation, and you can see them working exactly as they did in 1940. If you ever wonder why air superiority matters, why having a strong air force is essential, this is the answer. Without those pilots holding off the Luftwaffe, Britain falls and World War II probably ends very differently.